All right, welcome to VB's Pod. I'm sitting here with my good buddy, John Harder. I've been meaning to get him in here for a while. He was on the top of my list, and he finally graced me with his presence.
I do what I can.
He's a longtime friend, a longtime customer. He's done photography for me. He's come to be a good friend of mine. So kind of the way that me and John met initially was, you know, our buddy Freddie Williams planted a church that we were a part of called Ecclesia. And I believe we met in my living room in our small group probably before anything else, didn't we?
I think it was even before then. I think you guys were just getting together, and I was with Freddie, and we came over, and I remember you were making hot chocolate for us as the true.
Was that at Darren's house?
Yeah.
I remember that night.
Yeah.
We were over there for some like college football game or something.
Yeah.
And there was probably 5 or 6 of us dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time I was opening or had just opened or I don't know.
Was about to.
It was early on for the BB chocolate bar, previous business. And I remember that night I brought over like dark drinking chocolate and Aztec spiked drinking chocolate.
Right.
And maybe a milk and caramel hot chocolate. We made that like a bunch of bros. We sat around and we drank hot chocolate and watched football, and it was all very super exciting. I remember it just being an awesome night.
It was great.
But we go back to there where we were kind of brought together through this idea of creating this community and doing this church with all of our really close friends. We did that for, how long did that last? 5 years or 7 years?
5+, I think.
5+?
Yeah.
And those of you that don't know John is a photographer. When I met him at the time, he was doing data entry for like a third-party subsidiary for a large company in St. Louis.
Yep.
And then doing photography on the side.
Yep.
John is also a vocalist. Is that what you would call it?
Sure.
A musician, a singer.
I've had a history of singing in my life.
I know that, you know, there was many times where when our church finally had a building where we could meet outside of someone's living room, you and your friend Adrian and a bunch of other people would lead worship, and you were one of my favorite ones listening to you sing.
Well, that's very kind of you.
So John is a man of many talents. He's a photographer. He can come sing. Will you shoot the pictures of the wedding?
Sure.
Be the wedding singer at the same time?
Why not?
And then do their data entry at the end?
Why not? Yeah, I'll...
Anything to keep paying the bills,
Yeah, anything to pay the bills. But, I gave up the data entry for the photography, so, I'll leave that to someone else. Someone who's passionate about it.
You'll sing and take photos,
Yeah.
and that's about where you want to go.
Yeah.
So, how long ago did you go out on your own with your photography full-time and leave data entry?
So, that's kind of a two-part question, because I left the data entry job in 2015 or 16. I've kind of done things on the side in addition to the photography thing, but yeah, I think it was around 2016 when I left there. But yeah, I've been doing photography for a long time, but that's when I left my job to pursue it full on, yeah.
And we also did CrossFit together for a time, right?
Were we there at the same time?
I believe so. I'm not sure we were ever in the same class.
That's right.
Because our hours were slightly different. I think I made it like 6 months. You maybe started right at the tail end of when I was, done for the time being.
For the time being. There have been times when I've been done for the time being, but I've found my way back.
Good. I was gonna say, that's been probably another 4 or 5 years that you've been doing that, where you've been working
6.
out, and you were not a guy that worked out before that, right?
No.
I mean, you were sitting in a cubicle, kind of, doing photography on the side, but you weren't real focused on health and fitness.
Not at all.
I wouldn't say you were a super strong guy at that point.
Not at all. I have pictures of when I started that, and the difference is staggering.
So you stuck with that much better than I did. I was there for like 6 months. I was like, this is amazing. However, I need to be able to carry a 100-pound copper kettle upstairs and not be sore 24/7.
Yeah, and
I wasn't man enough not to be sore. Like I never once. I don't know if I just went too hard or if I'm just pansy.
You're always sore. That never goes away.
I literally 6 months of like crawling to the toilet and then lifting myself up by the hand sink and then trying to go to work.
Mm-hmm. That's normal for us psychopaths out there that do it. Yeah. There was a time too when I was going probably 6 days a week. It was a struggle, and I lived on the top floor of an apartment, so going home after a workout was it was brutal.
I remember there's so many days where you would get done with a WOD and literally I would just lay on the floor.
Yeah, that's
for
most
a
days for
solid like probably 2 minutes, but it felt like 10.
Oh, it's been.
And I literally, because I didn't ever even buy the CrossFit shoes, the lifting shoes.
Right.
I would be doing a lot of stuff without my tennis shoes on, or at least finish the WODs that way. And so I remember like I would just be laying there in a puddle of sweat and sadness.
Yep.
And
sadness.
And I wouldn't even be able to figure out, like I'd just be laying there like, if I can get my shoes on, when would be the appropriate time to try that? And then how do then how do I get out to my car? And then how do I get my car home? And then how do I shower and go to work and put in 12 hours?
Oh yeah, because you went at the beginning of the day, right?
Yeah, I would go before work, and then I'd come here and I'd stand over the copper kettle at 240 degrees, stirring it for hours, carrying that crap up and down the stairs, and I was just like, oh my god, I can't. After 6 months, I was like, I can't take it.
No, that's why I go at night, because the last thing I do is go home and lay on my couch. I'm not, People that say that it gives them more energy, that they can do stuff the rest of the day, I don't understand that, but
I wouldn't say it didn't, like it made me feel significantly better. Like I saw changes in my body that were unbelievable. I could almost eat anything and burn it right off.
Right.
Like it was an incredible system.
Right.
But I never got to the point where it was like, I know people that CrossFit. I know people that own CrossFit gyms outside of the one that we know.
Yeah.
They don't appear to be sore all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just good at hiding it.
I guess. I don't know, because you could tell.
Yeah. You can tell when I get out of the car and I start hobbling in, it's a struggle. Yeah.
So how has that affected your health? How has it affected your life, having that system and that community? Because that was one thing that I noticed about the CrossFit gym that we were a part of that I thought was really fascinating was, like a coffee shop. What I hope to do, what I do with Upshot.
Yeah.
You worked out, but a lot of it, at least 50% of it, was you had a family there that encouraged you, that you looked forward to seeing, that you hung out with. Is that part of what kept you in it?
That's what kept me there, because for me, before I worked out there, I worked out on my own, just going to a regular gym, and I was not very disciplined enough to go. I think the difference is with there, you sign up, so it's kind of like you're held accountable. You're going to see people, so it's like there's something to look forward to. But yeah, it's changed everything for me outside of the gym, because for me, when I'm there, it's like I do things that are obviously difficult, and you push yourself to do things that you think you can't do, and for me that translates over into everything that I do outside of the gym. If something seems like, for my personal business, if something seems like it's too hard or I don't want to do it or whatever, I can always remind myself, well, there was a time when I did something that I thought I couldn't do, so I can make it work here. So it really translates for me inside and outside of the gym.
How did that help you when kind of Ecclesia broke apart in that community that we built? Because I know for me, me and my wife Stacy, I know it was extremely difficult on us when that stuff didn't work out the way that we'd hoped it would.
Yeah.
And then when that broke up, a lot of people transitioned and moved and changed, and so it was not just losing necessarily the church and that family that we had, but it was really kind of losing that community all around that too.
Right.
And I know that was really tough on us. Did CrossFit and that community help you kind of transition through that?
Yeah, 100%. Because for me, it's funny, I always thought that I am quiet, and do need some alone time to kind of recuperate from things, but I definitely thrive when I'm with people. I may not be the center of attention, but I definitely want to be around people. I find energy when I'm around people. So for me, when that ended and that group of people that I saw every week kind of went away, it was definitely difficult for me. So having that gym community established already and kind of coming out of that church community, it helped me at least have someone there. And there's days that I will go to the gym even if I don't want to, just because it's like I get to go somewhere and I get to, because I work from home mostly, so it's something to look forward to, something to go to, and there's, like you said, a community built in there.
And she just opened a new gym over there, like a mile from here, right?
Yep. And
pretty awesome.
Sunday was their first day. Yeah. Yesterday was the first time I worked out in the new gym. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's totally different. But yeah, I love it. It's cool.
So let me ask you this: when Ecclesia broke up, what did you do for church or spirituality? How did that affect you? How did you transition out of that?
I looked at different places. It's kind of an interesting, it's interesting, like looking for that, because I grew up in it and that was my whole life growing up. And so it felt weird to kind of have nothing all of a sudden when that had been part of my life for so long. So I went and looked at different places and tried to find things that filled that community, but that stuff doesn't like just happen. It takes a lot of work, and you know, you've got to be willing to work, and other people have got to be willing to work to make those relationships strong. And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've got it figured out. I do have a place that I go to, but it's different. It's not the same as what we had, I think, back then. So, sometimes it's hard when you remember those times, but I always try to look forward. But
so is it just kind of filling a gap, checking a box for you at this point, like being there? Or do you really feel like you get something out of it?
Well, so like when I'm listening and I'm learning, I definitely feel like I get something out of it. I don't feel like I go out of, whether you want to call it guilt or you want to call it like
duty.
Yeah, I don't feel that pressure to do that, because I feel like if that's the reason what you're doing, then you're not, like, what's the point? So for me, like, I'm not gonna go just because I feel like I'm supposed to, you know. I feel like that should be, any type of faith or anything like that should be something that you want to do. So yeah, it does fulfill something for me, but I don't go because I feel like it's something I have to do, if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about what you generally shoot in your photography. What is your goal? What made you passionate about that? Why did you decide to build this business and go this route of, you know, unstable income, or, you know, trying really hard to, you know, I think a lot of people that are in small business early on, until you get the machine really rolling,
right.
It's a lot of no's, it's a lot of, yeah, maybe, it's a lot of discounted things, it's a lot of, you know, being right on the verge of opportunity and then having that opportunity disappear. Yeah. And so there's a lot of, you know, just, there's some great highs and some great lows, but it's really a grind, and it's really an unstable place to be early on before you know how you can forecast out 2 years, and you know, and you've got a stable base of repeat business and customers that are always scheduling you every single month or every year for their annual stuff. How do you handle that as a young man that is trying to build a career and build a life with building something that
is not stable, like a 9-to-5 job?
Right. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I'm in small business. I've been in small business for 17 years. You know, I don't know that I'm built to do anything else, but I do know that I get awfully jealous of people that can work.
Yeah.
You know, 9 to 5, which actually equates to maybe 3 hours of actual work within there.
Yeah.
And, you know, make really good money with really good benefits. Yeah. And when they go home, they're home. Mm-hmm. You know, I find myself jealous of that all the time. Yeah. I don't know that it's for me, but I know that it is attractive, especially when you're frustrated?
Sure. Yeah, it's been a long learning experience, and I can't even say that I've nailed it down completely, because something that I have done in my business is not only just learning all of those things, and that could have been a podcast in and of itself. There's all of those different things that you touched on, but for me, I was learning as I went. So I came straight out of college and did a photo shoot immediately after, like the month after I graduated.
What was your degree in?
Communications.
Okay.
So yeah, I took photography class because a friend of mine was teaching it, and it seemed like a fun thing to do, and I needed an extra credit, and so I took it and ended up falling in love with it with no intention to. And by the end of the semester, was like thinking this is something that I could actually do. So I got into it immediately, like I said, and just started shooting. It wasn't like I'm gonna figure this out before I start a business. I just started. So, I just had a conversation recently about the whole 10,000 hours thing. Before you become great at something, you gotta you gotta put in X amount of hours. But yeah, so I kind of failed along the way, kind of failed forward, if you will. So it's been a lot of shooting things that I don't want to shoot, figuring out what I do want to shoot. But yeah, there is that sense of I wish I could turn my brain off, or leave that at the office, or punch a clock so I can just get paid. But I know for me, just like you said, I'm not built that way. I've done it, and it just makes me miserable. So yeah, I can't. Oddly enough, my whole family are entrepreneurs. We all work for ourselves, so none of us
Really?
work.
What
Yeah.
else does your family do?
So my dad does like business consulting.
Really?
My mom, she does. It probably take a long time to explain, but it's like relationship. There's like a test. Like you see all these tests kind of telling you what personality type you are or whatever.
Enneagram.
Yeah,
all those.
so it's like that, but different. It's a little more scientific, and they actually have a coach that will walk you through your results. So it helps with people in relationships, people that work together, all of those kind of things. So, but before that, she did a skin care and makeup company for like 30 years or more. So yeah, we all kind of got the entrepreneurial spirit.
So they're pretty supportive of you and your goals and your ambitions?
Yeah, they've always been. I've been very lucky because I know a lot of people, have parents that say, that's fine, but go do this, or, and they've always wanted me to make sure that have some sort of something steady or something to rely on, but yeah, they've always been very supportive of what I do.
So when business is struggling, you call your dad and say, can you coach me, Pops? And then you call your mom and you go, how am I not relating to myself, Mom?
Exactly. I mean, and then I take their headshots for them. So, we all benefit. We all benefit.
This family full of business consultants and photographers. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when your mom and dad came to VB's the first time, and I think we had like a butter pecan ice cream, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
your mom was like my favorite ice cream, and it was somewhere. Where's the ice cream shop at that she goes?
Well, they go to one by their house, but they used to have like Breyers used to make something that they loved like years and years ago that they don't have anymore. So
she suggested doing a butter almond.
Yeah, that's the one
Ice
they
cream.
always loved. Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I'm down for anything. That
Yeah.
sounds kind of interesting.
Right.
So we ended up doing a butter almond ice cream for quite a while, and it was
Yeah.
actually pretty popular, and that
That's
was
funny.
due to your mom.
That's funny. See, they know something.
Every gift that keeps on giving, man.
That's right.
Get them back in here.
I need to. If you gave them some butter pecan, I know that, or butter almond. They would
Can I
come
go buy
in.
the Breyers and just put it in a different thing? And
No,
then
they don't
like-
have it.
They don't?
No, that's why they discontinued it. They tried to come back with it. They said it was totally a different recipe. So
Unbelievable.
yeah.
They'll find a way to ruin anything.
Now, see, we need people like you in our lives to kind of bring back those.
I got nothing, bro.
Well, tell me about you. Tell me about talk about business changing. Yours has changed over the years.
Yeah, I mean, we started with a dream of doing this chocolate bar and gathering this community, and it was extremely successful at doing that. And then it became this monstrous beast that I wasn't in love with at least 50% of it anymore. And, you know, one thing that I learned in that process was, you know, it's one thing to not love everything you do every single day. And I tell my kids that all the time. I've given that speech a million times. I don't like this. Well, you know, tough. You just get through it.
You have to do things you don't like.
But when you go through a period of a couple of years of hitting a specific component of what you're doing, whether that's really that business's fault or, you know, maybe you're not doing as well as you would like to, and you're not willing to put that work in. So you just have to move on. And I think the further I get away from, you know, why we made the changes here, the more I look into it, and I think to myself that it wasn't even that I hated that business. It was that I didn't feel like I was doing it as well as I could. And so therefore, I wasn't giving everything to the customers and the staff that I wanted. I wasn't able to follow through on the things that I wanted to, and I wasn't interested in being here fixing everything. You know, it wasn't something I was interested in doing. So I think ultimately what kind of moved me on was a realization that I just wasn't invested enough in it to do it well, and therefore the amount of stress and anxiety and just BS that I had to deal with for that just made it something that I realized I could live without. And I didn't really know how I was going to do that because the bar was really busy and it, you know, donated a lot to our bottom line. But I also knew that, you know, I needed to focus on one aspect of it, and it better be an aspect that I felt comfortable in, that fit within the hours that I wanted to keep for myself. Being married with 2 young boys, I've missed a lot, and I still miss a decent amount, but it's certainly a happier place for me. So, I mean, the transition really happened based on my own weakness and my own inability to do what I wanted to do in every aspect of my life to the level that I felt like I should be doing it. So really, I mean, it was my fault.
I mean,
which is what we find in business a lot, right? Like, you have all these reasons why it doesn't work. You have all these reasons why, you know, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault, it's, you know, the market, the economy, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, when you get far enough away from it, if you really spend a lot of time thinking about it, which I did for years before I made that decision, and I've been thinking about it for a year since I made that decision, I really think it was a bad fit for me at that time in my life, and I had to get out of it because I wasn't good at it. And I didn't have, you know, I didn't want to invest the capital, the time, and the infrastructure into spending the amount of money I would need to do to bring in, you know, a GM and a hostess and a real chef, not like 3 dishwashers making your flatbread downstairs, taking smoke breaks every 3 seconds. You know, there's a lot, like, I knew what I could do to fix it. The thing is, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to invest anymore because it wasn't what I was at that time feeling like was the right thing for me to do.
Well, I think that sometimes you go in not knowing until you experience it, and then, but like you said, sometimes it's just not the right time of life for you, and I could see that being in the phase of life you're in kind of wear you down a little bit. So I don't know, like, I wouldn't say that it was wrong, it just wasn't the right time or the right, you know. I oftentimes think, you know, at a different time, in a different place, with, you know, the right partners and the right co-owners on board, I would open a bar tomorrow as long as it was focused, built out to be efficient, had a clear vision of something I was passionate about. Because this is the weird thing, you know, this is ultimately one of the things I could never get past is I didn't drink chocolate martinis. In fact, I thought they were pretty stupid. Right? You know, I opened this place to do chocolate martinis was supposed to be like one aspect of it, but I really wanted to do high-end craft cocktails and really appreciate neat bourbons and whiskeys and fine wines and all these things that I was super excited about. And I think one of the things that drove me out of it was 90% of what I sold, no matter what I did, was chocolate martinis. And I didn't
They were good. They were great. They were the best chocolate martinis in the world.
Yeah.
But I wasn't passionate about them.
Right.
So it was just kind of like, it was also frustrating in a way because I really wanted people to experience all these other killer things that we were doing. And that's not to say no one was experiencing them, because we had we had a dedicated crowd of people that wanted to try everything new that we did. But it was a small portion of what our sales were. Like if you held up wine and burnt orange old fashioned and aged Kyoto cold brew Manhattans and all these things that I was super into.
Yeah.
Next to the dessert cake martini,
right,
it was 5% of dessert cake martinis.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's not really. I don't know. I'm a guy that if I'm not really interested in it, I kind of lose steam. And I really was like, how is it that I can age coffee for 6 weeks in a whiskey barrel and create the greatest cocktail up here that I've had in forever, and all of, we were able to do really neat things. And I could sell 5 of those a night. But the pearl vodka going in the whipped cream for the birthday cake martini is basically just a sugar bomb with alcohol is what I sell all night. Is that what I got into this for? For me, it wasn't. Right.
Well, and I think I could see that being the case for a lot of entrepreneurs too. Like we want, and maybe that's why we don't succeed at those things that we long term. Like you said, you gotta do the work. You gotta do some things that you don't want to do. But for that, it just seems like it was a business built that wasn't what you were passionate about.
Well, I'm like an idiot. I called it the chocolate bar. So for me to expect anything else was completely stupid. Right? Like I called it a chocolate bar, and guess what? Our number one seller was a chocolate martini. That makes perfect sense.
Right.
So I was frustrated with how dumb I actually was if that wasn't my end goal.
Hey, we learn from our mistakes, right?
I don't know. I'm pretty stupid. I gotta make them a whole bunch of times.
Hey, I feel you. Sometimes we're stubborn and we gotta learn.
What would that be for you in photography? What was it that you chased early on and you didn't understand, and it set you back or frustrated you or made you want to do something else?
For me, and this makes me feel a little cringy and gross to say it, but chasing the money. And it's not, when I say that, I don't mean like an abundance of money. It's the fear of, I guess, what most entrepreneurs have, like, will it run out? And trying to do things just to make money. But what I find is, even if it works short term, if you don't love it, you're not going to be passionate about it, and you're not going to sell it, and you're not going to believe in it, and then ultimately the bottom will fall out. And so I find that anytime I get nervous and I think things are slow, I just got to do whatever I can to make some money, that's when things kind of go awry. So I just have to constantly keep in mind, stick with what you love, stick with the things, because photography is it's oddly enough, because even though it's one medium, there's so many things that you can do with it. There's branding, there's marketing, there's family, there's weddings, there's so many things, there's stock images, the list goes on. So finding that thing that really makes you excited and sticking with it and just working hard on that one thing versus trying to be everything to all people,
So you're not going to sell chocolate martinis anytime soon to push your photography?
I will drink them all day, but I will not sell them.
So what is your focus and your goal with your photography now and what you know? What do you love shooting? I know we all got to pay the bills, so we'll do a bunch of stuff, but what is it that you really wake up and you go, I get to shoot this today?
Yeah, so, and I'm kind of in the process of doing this, so it's interesting. I kind of did a pivot at the end of last year, and I went in the direction of branding photography. And again, talking about like niching down, I mean, even within that one, there's so many different types of brands out there that you can't, I feel like you even have to get more narrow than that. So I started doing, because my my connections that I had were kind of on the corporate side of things, so I did a lot of corporate brands. But I'm finding that doesn't even really excite me, but more of the creative brand. So I'm actually talking to I went to a fashion networking event, and I'm doing a shoot for them, for some designers for the local college. So yeah, I think doing some creative branding photos for businesses, whether it be designers, whether it be local businesses, whether it be, kind of people that are creative minded, those kind of brands is what I've been focusing on.
So you're moving to that versus like shooting product shots of seed for Bayer?
Yes, which I never did, which I probably would never do. Well, if it paid enough.
I was gonna say, dude, I'd shoot shots of seed for Bayer if it paid enough.
Right.
And I would just use that money to go buy a farm and then make it a closed loop farm that undid all the danger that I had just put out there for everyone.
There you go. So never say you wouldn't do anything. Like we said, you always got to do something you don't like, but as far as the direction I want to go in, that's the direction.
That's an interesting thing. This is something I've been talking to people a little bit lately because, I hear a lot of people, I think we're all kind of bred that we're all meant to be entrepreneurs. That's kind of the theory we're raised up with in America. Like, you're going to be a billionaire if you just try, and you're talented at something, and someone's taking your money, and why give your time to other people, and all these theories that work for about 5% of the people that actually try.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've been coming back to lately is, if something that you love is your hobby and you're passionate about it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's what should be your full-time job.
Yeah, and that's something I was nervous about when I got into this. Like I remember saying, I don't want the thing that I love to become the thing that I hate.
Yep.
And I think that anytime, it's funny, if I don't work hard enough, then I'm not seeing the reward. And then if I'm not seeing the reward, then I get behind. And then I start spinning out. So, and then that's when I start to hate it. So just like being disciplined, doing those, putting in the work, those kind of things, even though it's not fun, it kind of keeps me from getting to that place of like, oh, I regret doing this, I regret starting this. So, I feel like there is always a danger of that, hating the thing, and probably the same for you. You started what seemed like it was going to be so amazing, and then you kind of
and it was.
Yeah.
And, at first it's a lot of fun, and then, listen, most of us don't do our hobbies 7 days a week, 60 hours a week. Right. And then, obviously that hobby isn't all you're doing. You're hiring, you're firing, you're payroll, you're arguing with your landlord or your bank, you're mitigating Yelp reviews from your neighbor that just doesn't like the fact that you're busier, and so he's putting up bad Yelp. Like, there's so many things that go into it that your hobby really gets lost in that.
Yeah.
And, your hobby that you really used to love doing 1 to 3 nights a week with your family, and it's this safe respite that you get away from all the other BS in your life. Now that's your job. And there's a dangerous thing of turning your hobby into your job and ruining how beautiful that hobby is.
Yeah, because I think you don't see or you're kind of blinded by the idealistic side of it, and you kind of are naive to the fact that there is a business side of it. And I remember thinking, because I knew people that did photography for a business, and even a friend of mine said, if I knew how much went into this when I started, I may not have done it. And when I started, I thought, I don't know what that means because I haven't experienced it yet, but I can see that might happen. And they're hard days, hard, dark days, where you think, did I make the right choice? And should I start over? Should I, throw it all out, scrap it? I've called friends, texted friends, say, that's it, I'm selling all my equipment. I'm going to get a 9-to-5 job.
What stopped you though?
I think for me, I always find, I don't know, there's just a moment where I will find for some reason something that reminds me of why I loved it, why I love it.
So it's not past tense.
Listen, that's a daily thing, and it will always be. Yeah, don't ever think that you will have just arrived.
To some extent, like for me, I think what it always came back to, and I'm sure it's the exact same for you, if we're, just this dawned on me as we're talking, is, when you're extremely passionate about something and you want to do it a certain way, and people just want you to do it in bastardized versions of that for their way, or to save a penny, or like for me, just like the chocolate martinis distracting from the drinks we were creating that I was really excited about, and that bothering me that we only did these other things and we couldn't get the focus over here, that bothered me. And then on the chocolate side, I would do what I thought were really cool and crazy things that I was really excited about. And one of the things that burned me out on the chocolate side was I could do that, and just like the aged coffee Manhattan, it would sell 5%, and really what I was doing was making sea salt caramels and chocolate covered marshmallows all day, and pecan turtles, and those are the friendliest, easiest, it's everyone pretty much loves those. And so the same way that the martinis really aggravated me with not being able to really get the other drinks out to people, just sitting downstairs, and instead of making and challenging myself on a daily basis for new chocolates that really intrigued me, I spent 90% of my time coating chocolates, coating caramel and chocolate and sprinkling sea salt on it, making marshmallow, cutting it and running it down the Hilliard. Like the same thing over and over. And so like all the noise distracted me from what I originally got into, which was to do really cool, unique things in the suburbs that weren't being done. And even bigger than that, to do really cool, unique things that I could maybe impact even outside of my community. And in order to achieve that, I couldn't have 95% of my time be dedicated to the friendly things that it ended up being dedicated to. And so as an artist or as a creative, I think that was overly frustrating to me when I look back on it. Is just, I wanted to get these good things out to people, and maybe I misjudged that the good things weren't the burnt orange old fashioned truffle. Maybe the good thing was the classic sea salt caramel, and it was the best sea salt caramel there ever was. But it didn't get me out of bed waiting to cut 5,000 caramels and then rub those every single day. It just wasn't, and I think that's, on the photography level, how often is it that you get really excited to go shoot this new fashion brand and create this vibe and be in charge of this, like that gets you going. But then that's one. And then the other 9 shoots that week are, hey, come take a picture of my kid's birthday party, or, not to say you don't enjoy that, maybe you love it, but how much of it is what got you into this in the beginning versus the 90% that pays the bills? And how do you make that transition? Because I wasn't able to make it. Like I realized that these classics of what people came here for was not going to change. I could always sell the other stuff, but it was always going to be a small portion compared to the classics and the comfort foods that people came here for.
Yeah, I mean, you say 90%, I'd say it's like 99% of the things are not the thing that I got into this for. But for me, it's taking the time. Well, it's deciding first of all that, okay, I want to dedicate this long term versus, because it's rare that someone just blows up quickly and gets famous, or does the thing that they want to do immediately. But a lot of it takes years and years, and a lot of us, it's so prevalent for us to see those stories that we don't see them for a long time, and then they seem like an overnight success, but really they've been putting in years of work. And I think that's the case for me, is that I'm still putting in that work, and I have to just decide that's worth it for me to have to shoot the things that aren't ideal for me. But I know that I hope that, if I continue to build a niche that people get excited about and continue to connect with people that are and kind of decipher the people that are meant for that, that'll eventually happen. It's just going to take a lot of time, and that's not in my nature. I like when I get my sight set on something, I want it to happen immediately, but it's not reality. So just being patient, I think, is.
Yeah, and I think it's, one of the things that I've come to looking back over the last year too is, if you look at it as I'm making this thing that I'm excited about and you guys need to buy it, and you shouldn't be buying these other things, and then you get frustrated, that's one thing, which is kind of where I generally laid in my immaturity. The other way I could have chosen to look at that had I wanted to stay in that business and do it for a long time was I could have looked at and observed how happy it made people sitting here, the wife having a wedding cake martini, the husband having a milk caramel martini or a salted caramel pretzel martini, because they were fantastic.
Right.
So I could have chosen to look at that and just go, my God, look how happy this place and that drink and this staff is making that. And I could have chosen to really find all the positives in that instead of being frustrated that my frozen sphere of cold brew coffee wasn't being put into Manhattan.
But when it's your life, it's hard to see that.
It is. Here's the thing: is when you're struggling with all of that, and you're just burned out and you're tired and frustrated, you're not really able to step back in that moment and appreciate everything that was beautiful about it.
Right.
It's almost like you have to walk away from it for a little while, get away from it, and be able to look back at it with fondness and go, wow, we created some really, really great things for people.
Yeah.
And if me making caramels and marshmallows all day and milk chocolate martinis did that, how cool is that?
Right.
And I wasn't healthy enough to do that, and I didn't choose to want to be in a bar for another 10 years, so I chose to overlook that, and instead I just revamped my business to do exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
So there's two options there, but I think I could have chosen to look at that completely different if I was more mature and more enlightened and more evolved at that time. I probably could have, appreciated that more, even if I was going to change it.
Yeah. Of course, I wonder too, like, how much should you put aside what you want to, where's that line between this is making someone happy versus this is what I want to do? And I think we're lucky if those two meet, but it's not always the case. Like, I know that I can take wedding photos for a couple and I enjoy it. I've had some amazing couples that I worked with and friends that I've worked with who I'll always remember those weddings. But then I have a lot of weddings that I've shot that were not, I wasn't tied to them, so it felt like I was just going through the motions. And so it's the same with me. Like, I could look at this couple and obviously this is the most amazing day of their life, and they're building these memories, and they are so appreciative of the photos. But I know people that love shooting weddings. Like, that's what gets them up in the morning, and it doesn't for me. And that was kind of a hard thing for me to realize. I enjoy shooting them when I do, but I knew I didn't want to make a full business.
You didn't only want to be a wedding photographer.
Right. So, I kind of wonder where do we draw those lines of, can I see that it's making other people happy and be happy enough with that, or do I want to build the dream which may not look like that, and where does that line kind of lie?
I think you got to kind of work them in tandem.
Yeah.
And for me now, what I've transitioned to with Upshot is, we have a lot of drinks on here that I don't really drink myself. I know
Sure.
they're fantastic drinks,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't get bothered by the fact that, if I have this incredible extraction of single origin Ethiopian coffee that we just roasted and will blow your mind. I've come to terms with the fact that a lot of people don't drink straight espresso around here.
Right.
So I've come to terms with the fact that our number one seller is going to be a brown sugar vanilla or a caramel latte.
Right.
And so now I've transitioned to just enjoying the fact that people come to my business, it means something to them, they're generally happy and they smile. We're giving them an incredible product for a fair price, and that's rewarding for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm here for. I've transitioned from wanting you to understand every cool thing I do, which is a very selfish idea,
Sure.
to going, hey, you're willing to come in here and spend your hard-earned money and drive 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of your way to do so, and smile at my staff and tip my staff and take care of my staff.
Right.
And you think it's great to be able to spend your time here.
Yeah.
That's really what motivates me now, is seeing happiness in other people and watching them enjoy something that I have full confidence in that we do well.
Yeah.
Now, if you love something that we don't do well, I'll probably take it off the menu if I feel like it's just not good.
Yeah.
But I think it's really transitioned for me to just trying to really love and appreciate that relationship with our customer, more so than wanting everyone to get my artistic and creative, viewpoint.
Yeah. So what's changed for you from how you felt about your business when it was BB's to how it is now?
I think it fits. For one, we're 7 to 5, so it's much more simple for me. We're not open till 1 a.m.
Sure.
So there's a lot less that can go wrong. The coffee business is very stable. Rain, snow, summer, fall. Generally, we're hitting pretty much the same numbers, and we pretty much are able to grow it the same way. Whereas the bar for me was really boom or bust because, since we were so bad at building this place out, and we didn't have enough seats inside, and we depended on the patio.
Yeah.
If the weather wasn't perfect and the patio was empty and people couldn't get a table inside here and left, my Friday, Saturday night would be cut in half.
Yeah.
And so that was very stressful for me because it was such a roller coaster.
Sure.
You had to hope and depend on the weather to be perfect. You had to, hope and depend that on a lot of things, where when I would leave after, working all day making chocolate and helping out in coffee and whatever it is that I needed to do, and then I would go home, I would sit there at home all night and generally be miserable thinking that it might rain,
right,
or it was too humid and so
right,
no one was going to want to sit outside, or A, B, C, and D. There was so many things that could go wrong in the bar that I didn't feel like I was going to be able to control and succeed and enjoy. That was just a big stressor for me. And now we have a business that, I love the people that are working for me. We've got a great team, and that's always open to change. I mean, that could be totally different, but I can tell you this team that I have now and that I've had since we rebranded and reopened, I love them. They make my life easy. Yeah. My partner in Beats and Bones, Nick Zodos, has brought so much to the table as far as influencing food and influencing our cold pressed juices and, being a good friend that can pull his own weight. And same with Jared Dorsey, our GM and our coffee manager. He pulls his own weight and he keeps coffee really going. We've got bakers downstairs that, I'm big time into fermentation and all kinds of crazy stuff. My passion for doing crazy chocolate kind of transition into just rotting things and then eating them. And we've got, a woman down there, a lady named Julie, that is phenomenal and as excited about fermentation as me. So I get to bounce between, coffee, which I'm excited about, cold pressed juice and bone broth, which I'm very excited about, incredible food items that I love. I'll eat our food over anyone's.
Yeah.
I mean, the new menu items that we've rolled out are unbelievable. So I fully believe in all of them.
Yeah.
And then I actually look forward to getting to appreciate the people that work here every single day, because I do appreciate them since they're great at what they do.
Yeah.
And I've also really learned to appreciate every one of my customers and enjoy that time that I have. Because at the end of the day, we're all kind of lucky that we're even, that was one realization I came to somewhere, after the transition, was it's everyone's opening coffee shops and breakfast places and bars and pizza places. Everyone and their mother wants to own one, and they think they're going to be great at it. So they're popping up everywhere. So if you're lucky enough to have one and it's busy and people love you and your staff, that's really an incredible thing. And if you don't appreciate that, you're really kind of missing the whole point of the entire deal.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like you said, there's still things that you love, and then there's things that may not be the best, but it seems like the two things that I kind of hear you saying is, one, you've built a system that kind of is something you can depend more on versus the one that you had that was kind of weather dependent, and then also just kind of having a sense of gratitude that you kind of grown into, and which shows a lot to me. It shows a lot of growth as a business owner to kind of see maybe something that, whether it been circumstances or frustrations or you were just tired, that you couldn't allow yourself to see before, back when it was VBs.
And here we are.
And here we are, and it's a beautiful thing. And I loved it then, I love it now for different reasons, but yeah, it's cool though. It's cool to see, and what I also love is the fact that the people, as sad as they were to see things change, they still were committed to what has been built here. And I'm sure there's some people that don't come that used to go to VBs, and I'm sure that you've gotten new people that didn't come before, but it seems like the ones that were behind you from the beginning are still here, which is cool to see.
Yeah, and even if they're not coffee people, they still supported us for 7 years. I mean, we had a lot of bar customers that were never really coffee people, and they supported us for 7 years. And when we decided to close the bar, they grieved it. They told us they appreciated it. You know, it was like a warm, kind of at a time when I really needed it, and I was feeling pretty like uncertain and burned out and frustrated. You know, what I heard from people in support of just, you know, we really appreciated that place, and we're gonna miss it. And what you guys, you know, did for us was memorable. Like, we're never gonna forget VB Chocolate Bar. That wasn't really what I was expecting, because I was so smart, right? That when I got that kind of feedback and just that warmth at a time when I really needed it, it really kind of propelled me to be able to do the next step of what I did in a more fulfilled way.
Right. So still have that same feeling that the customers had before, but hopefully also that you can feel it too.
Yeah.
And that, you know.
I think we're bad at that all the time, is, you know, people really appreciate what you do and how you do it and the service you provide, or just your friendship or whatever. And you're so stressed by the business and knowing everything that's not going well, or just frustrations, that it's hard to even accept the fact that people appreciate you. So I think that's kind of the next step is, okay, you're still here.
Right.
And you know, people want you to know they appreciate you. How do you just accept that? Let that lift you up, make you a better business person, and then you're able to give that back and continue to grow it and make it better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm great at that, but I would say I'm better now than I was 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, or a year ago. I think that's something I consciously try to improve.
Sure.
Every single year, you know, through just sitting, reading books, talking to people. That's part of the reason we started this podcast. Is I was like, this is pretty cool. Pretty cool for me to be able to sit here with other people and have a planned kind of long form, you know, uninitiated or unplanned direction of conversation where we can really talk these things through, and I can hear your viewpoint, plus I'm then forced to tell you my viewpoint at this consistent time, or at this time, which will be ever evolving.
Sure.
But now I've got it on record of what I think, and I've worked through it, and I've said it out loud, and you know, the 3 people that are listening to this know what my goals are, and if I'm not holding myself up to those goals, they can hold me accountable. Right. And say, you're supposed to be appreciating us. You said you're involved. And you just gave me the middle finger and kicked the rear view mirror off my car. What's wrong with you, dude?
Typical Connor. Always being such a jerk to people. No, but that's true. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to do with my podcast too, is just, you know, have something that, and it kind of goes back to the community side of things for me, is I want to build those bridges between me and other entrepreneurs. I know that for me personally, and probably for other creative people, it's easy to kind of isolate ourselves. And I think for business people in general, we get so buried in our work that any second that we have to ourselves, we just want to kind of lay down and do nothing. But having this, I feel like, has been therapeutic for me to be able to have conversations, just learn from other people. It's almost like a selfish thing, but yeah, it's great to see how other people are succeeding and how they're failing, and how we can learn from their failures and how we can use their successes to kind of get ideas. I know that just from some of the podcasts that I've done, I've put things into specific action that other people are doing that have helped benefit my business just by, hearing something that I've never would have considered before. So yeah, it's cool to be able to do something like this to kind of be an extension of our business and who we are. But it seems for me it's so natural to just have conversations with other business owners and learn from that, because I think
What's the name of your podcast?
Mine is Defining Your Brand. So being a branding photographer, it kind of, I think, just made sense for me because the image helps us define our brand. So that's kind of where that was born out of. So
How do people find that? Apple Podcast, Spotify?
On all the things, Spotify, Apple, probably some other places I don't even know it exists, but
Stitcher, Google Play.
all the things.
I know when I uploaded, my first one to Anchor is who I use.
Yeah.
It distributed to like 8 platforms for me, and I was like, I've only ever listened to really Apple.
Right.
I have Spotify, but I use that mostly for music.
Right.
And so to see that, how little I even understood about podcasting, that you can upload it to this thing and it gives it to 8 different devices and everyone listens to it differently.
Yeah.
Even that was like, well,
and that's something I learned from you, so that's what I do. So see, we're all learning from each other.
What do you want to do with your photography? What's your future goals and ambitions? What do you want to?
So short term, again, love to work with brands, and so that can be for anybody in business. I love creating a kind of a face for people's business. I think that the conversation that I always have with people is that, if you don't work for another company, you are essentially your own personal brand. So I have a conversation all the time about oversaturation. Just like you said, there's so many coffee shops out there. There's so many everything out there. We can't say that one business is more saturated than another, because we're all doing, the same thing almost. So we need to be out there. We need to be sharing our voice, sharing our vision, all of those things, talking about who we are. And so that's what I want to do with the branding. But I do also want to work with creatives, like I mentioned. So I'm getting more into the kind of connected to the fashion world that we have in St. Louis, which is bigger than I had realized that it is.
Mostly Crocs and Dockers, right?
Not your fashion.
Oh.
Not your fashion, sorry.
I thought those were coming back in.
Yeah. Connor can't with you sometimes.
No? You haven't done any Croc shoots?
No Croc shoots.
I heard they were coming back into style, so I stopped wearing mine like a year ago.
Good.
So now I just wear like my Nikes or my Adidas Sambas. I've changed up that style because I was like, if the kids are in this, and this is cool,
then
Dad can't be in this.
That's right.
Dad's got to go back to the Nikes and the Adidas.
I hope that is not a trend that comes back.
Crocs?
Yeah.
It's already here, baby.
No, I'm out.
No, you need to get in.
Okay.
Well, I've got 3 pairs at home that are not being used right now. I happily. What size are you?
Not your size. So we'll leave it at that.
I'll give you the pair with the whisks and the espresso.
Great.
Pucks on it, and the fork and the knife and the chef's hat.
Great.
Those were black and white. That was very monotone, which seems very, very subtle and fashionable for you.
Sure. Well,
where can I send those to?
You can send them straight out back to the dumpster. Yeah. So yes, that's kind of what I want to do is branding. I have a long-term vision that I don't know how it's going to work, but I'd love to have kind of a co-working space that has a studio in it as well. And then maybe a retail situation in there as well. But basically, I want to have people working together, and I want to have local businesses being supported. And that is a vision that I've had for a long time now, probably over 5 years. But yeah, there's a lot of steps that have to happen before that gets put into place. But
You got to find an investor,
yes,
sell them on the idea,
yes,
and then get it done.
yep, just that easy.
There's nothing easy about it, but I mean, that would be the steps, right?
Sure.
If you don't have $1 million sitting around to go buy a building, build it out, put in a, because I've heard actually a lot of creatives that I know talk about this concept of, buying a warehouse, putting a little coffee shop in there, having offices that people can work out of, having, a studio room where you can just shoot and do all of that, having another room that's like a podcasting room, and, a barber in there, whatever, like all these great ideas that bring people together. And then also, you're the creative brand developing photographer, and the guy at the next office is the website guy, and the guy at the next office is the social media guy or whatever, and putting all those people together. And what I want to see is one of you guys do it,
right,
so that I can rent an office there and hang out.
I will gladly have you when it happens. For me, I think first steps, and this is kind of what I'm doing now, is working on the community aspects for it. And I think, just like you said, having this podcast to hold us accountable is, I think, kind of what goes along with that is just putting things out there. So for me, like, just saying the things that you want, someone may hear it that can make things happen that I can't. I think for me, I won't speak for other people, but for me, I will tend to keep dreams to myself because I think I need to do it, or I can't do that yet, so I'm going to keep it to myself before I can make this happen.
Or it's personal and you don't want the rejection.
Or that.
Yeah.
But I think putting it out there just allows things to be more realistic to come to life, because more ears can hear it, more people that have the means to make things a reality hear it, and they can help you do it. And I think none of us were meant to do things alone, some things, but...
What do you do alone, John?
I sleep mostly. Sleep mostly. Sleep is very dear to me.
How many hours a night do you sleep?
I'm like a 7 to 8 hour.
That's not too bad.
I can't thrive unless I'm that person. So, but yeah. I think that I'm in the community building stage right now, and so hopefully someday I can see that come to life.
Well, you always got me, so if you ever need help with anything, you holler at me. Where do people find you at?
So on Instagram, I am John_Harder, first last name JOHNHARDER. My website is jharderphotography and
.com.
Correct.
And they can email you directly off that website, DM you on Instagram.
Yep, reach
out to you.
Definitely DM me on Instagram. I love connecting with people. I love connecting with creators. I love collaborating with creators. My website has my contact information. If you want to shoot, there you can fill it out. You can tell me what your plans and your budgets and all the things are, and I'd love to work with people. But yeah,
I've got the greatest idea to all of my listeners, all three of you. 4 if we include my wife, and 5 if we include my mother.
Perfect.
But here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a fashion shoot with John Harder. I can't be involved because he'll know immediately. So one of you guys is going to have to DM him and ask him to help you create a brand and set this whole deal up. And then we're going to invite him to We're going to invite him to a studio, and there's just going to be my 3 pairs of Crocs.
Leave them at
and
home.
A bunch
I saw it
partially bleached Dockers.
I saw it coming.
And we're going to ask him to create a dad brand.
Pass.
So one of you guys, please help me do that.
Forget it. I'll make that happen.
Yeah. See, John's the guy.
I'm gonna make that happen. I'm gonna make the impossible possible.
You're gonna make Crocs great again.
I'm not.
We need a hat. We need a hat. Macaga.
Okay. I can't with you.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you listening. If you need any photography or if you want to be a part of John's community whatsoever, he's a great dude. Just looking to help people out. You can reach out to him on all those areas he told you about. And if you want to get a coffee, you can come see me. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.